So I think we're officially live. Should be good to go. I'm going to post this on Twitter really quick. And also post it in YouTube community. So if anyone wants to join. Live. And then if any of you guys have any questions or anything like that. So, hey, what's up, Ethan? I think you're our first comment here also on these live streams. I tested out some live streams like a long time ago, just doing some SQL coding, but I'm not the best at live stream coding. So I kind of just want to do like Q&As. People talk about career, data in general, kind of have fun with that. So I appreciate you hanging out, man. And let me just post this on YouTube community and I think we should be good. So let me just make one more post. And yeah, let me know what you want to talk about because I can probably talk about my data journey a little bit behind that, where I want to go towards in the future, and also the channel itself, kind of my hobbies and stuff like that too, and how they kind of relate to data. But a lot we could do. So let me just put this over here in the community quick. Over here, and it is now posted. Awesome. All right, so audience on, but that's all right. We'll grow this over time. So kind of just like my data backstory, and it does feel weird talking one way like this, but either way, first got into data, as weird as it sounds, like when the movie Moneyball came out. So growing up, I used to play baseball and like I collected baseball cards. So I was always into like the statistics of baseball players, if they were going to eventually be a Hall of Famer or not. Movie Moneyball came out, which I don't even remember what year that came out specifically, but I really enjoyed that movie. And as someone that also competed in math competitions in middle school and also, I should say even in elementary school, elementary through high school, loved baseball and also loved tech, which I know Moneyball, I don't think really used many models or anything like that. But regardless, it's been a while since I watched that movie. I enjoyed math. I enjoyed baseball and I was kind of a nerd. So I did enjoy computers, but I didn't know the data analytics or data science field really existed for quite a while. So going through high school, again, I had no idea what I wanted to do, career-wise at least. And once I graduated high school, I kind of just chose electrical engineering. I literally just Google searched like degrees with math, engineering, and that are difficult and pay kind of well. So electrical engineering was on a lot of the lists, and I thought it would be kind of interesting, at least to go into. But that wasn't the field for me. I did well in the classes. I had a great GPA going out of college, but I wasn't passionate about it. Like I could look at different circuits, I could solve them pretty easily. We had our senior design, and I really didn't enjoy it. I built with my team a smart toaster oven, as funny as it is, and we had to design the hardware as well as some of the software associated with it, and make a whole presentation, 120-page report, and that's how you get your electrical engineering degree, at least at UCF. Well, you can do it with any project. You don't have to do a smart toaster oven, but did that, and I graduated during the COVID year. I should also mention that there was one class that I took in college that I quite enjoyed that dealt with data, and this class focused a lot on the Tableau side of things. We didn't learn anything about SQL, although it was mentioned as a way to grab data. But it was a class about sports and analytics, but more specifically, it focused on ticket sales. So how sports teams use analytics to sell tickets. And a lot of my perception on, the gimmicks that teams would do to try to sell tickets were off. I mean, the number one thing that teams did to sell tickets, which is kind of obvious now looking at it, and I don't know why I didn't see it there, is the opponent that you faced. I would thought the giveaways would matter as much, and like the giveaways would try to get people in. It did not. But it was a full class like that. Every single week would have someone from a different sports team. And I'm based out of Orlando. So we had sports teams from Tampa and also Orlando come in. And also our lecturer, or professor, I should say, was very involved with the sports analytics side of things. So could talk on for hours and hours about that side of things. It was a really fun class. But anyways, 2020, COVID graduation and everything like that. I did not go for electrical engineering degree. or electrical engineering job. As funny as it is, I did SEO on the side, which is another like very data focused side of things, right? Like you're trying to rank websites, you're taking a look at what data for the keywords that you want to rank for, as well as the data on the website, specifically what you need to do to tweak a website to rank it. And I did a lot of deep dives with the data on that side of things and actually worked for an SEO YouTuber for a while. And I wanted to try that as a startup, and I failed pretty badly. And looking back at things, I probably should have just grabbed an electrical engineering degree right away, because companies don't like when you have a time gap. But regardless, towards the end of that, I had two options. I could either go like the electrical engineering path, or I could go the data analytics path. And obviously, if I went the data analytics path, I would have to study SQL. I knew Tableau, at least from that class, or at least knew it well enough where I could go by on that side of things. And I knew I had to upskill some sides. So essentially, I decided instead of going electrical engineering, I'd do data analytics. Although I will say I did apply for jobs as both electrical engineering and data analytics. And it probably wasn't the best time to also apply. I think I was started applying for jobs end of 2020, going into 2021. And I eventually did end up getting a data analytics job. And that data analytics job was as a marketing data analyst. As funny as it is, as like a marketing data analyst, like all I was a SQL monkey. And I wasn't even doing SQL for the marketing team. I was doing SQL for more of the accounting and then like operations and also the sales team. So it was just marketing in the name, but it was really a full-on data SQL analyst. And I quickly, like my role within that company, I started focusing more on like working directly with the ELT or executive leadership team, and kind of went forward with that. I know, Ethan, you put a few things in here. I'm going to go over those real quick and I'll continue with the story. So I have many questions, but firstly, I want to thank you for helping me with my data analysis science journey, which I started this year in June. Awesome, man. Like, look, it's not going to be something that you start in 1 month and move on forward. Like a lot of people post on Twitter or social media, like become a data analyst in 30 days. Like I hate those type of tweets, because there's so much to this journey. Or become a data scientist in 60 days. And they say learn calculus in a day. Like, come on, some of those posts are ridiculous, but I'm glad you stuck with it since June. Do you have a job now, or have you been starting to apply for jobs, building up a portfolio? I'm curious on your side of things. And if you had to start all over again, how would you approach your data journey, knowing your current experience through job applications and work in field? We'll get into that. All right. So let me kind of continue this story. So I'm here at this tax software company. I ended up working here for about 2 years. And like probably the last 6 months, I wasn't really learning anything specifically new. I'd say 6 months to a year. Like I got my job down. I knew how to edit queries. I knew what each of the different departments specifically wanted. But I really didn't see much job growth in that opportunity, or really like a chance for me to build out my own projects or learn stuff on the side and apply it for the job. So realistically, like I got pretty bored there and I just couldn't see myself upskilling. So I decided like, hey, I'm going to go into a data science role. And I know there's a lot that you could cover with data analytics. I get it. And I could have looked for maybe a more senior data analytics position at another company or a larger company, because we're, I think, about 100 to 200 employees in general. So it's still like a smaller-ish company, a couple $100 million company. But like that's small compared to a lot larger companies where you have multiple data analytics. You have data science team. Like we didn't have a data science team. We did have some DBAs. We had software engineers, but there was no data science going on. And I even asked my boss at the time, like, hey, I want to start learning Python. Is there any way that I could start implementing Python within, either day-to-day skills or also future projects? And I was told it would take 5 years for us to start using Python. So I had to get out of there. And this is where, like Ethan, where I would recommend first start doing is like networking or getting your name out. So this is actually my second YouTube channel. I actually have another YouTube channel, which is all around sports cards. So kind of stuff like this, as weird as it sounds. Like one of my favorite hobbies, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, is baseball. Or I was baseball when I was a kid, but I love sports cards. It's so much fun because there's data on the sales side of things. You flip cards, you collect cards. Like I could talk hours about sports cards. But anyways, like through networking with sports cards, I was able to find another job opportunity. There was a guy out there that watched some of the YouTube videos that I have out there, posted on Instagram. If you're looking for any jobs or any connections in different cities, hit me up, because I know a lot of people. I was also I think he owns his own data science company. So hit him up. He had someone in his family that lived in Orlando and also was within this company that I'm at right now. And we talked over coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee. I honestly just drink water. Talked over there, said, okay, we have a few different roles online to apply through those. So I applied for a data science position and I was straightforward with the interviewers. I think 3 or 4 rounds of interviews. And I was like, look, I'm a data analyst right now. At that point, I was studying Python for about 2 months. So I didn't have the strongest Python skills. And I said that straight out. Like, look, I don't have the strongest Python skills. I'm learning every single week. Like, I'm here studying. I'm taking a few different courses. And at that time, I was doing some data camp and also just watching YouTube videos on Python. Like, look, I'm trying to upskill. I'm trying to do this. And look, I aced the SQL portion of the interview. I talked about everything I was doing. Like, they didn't ask me any Python questions, surprisingly. Although once I joined the company, we didn't really do much Python, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And I ended up doing well in the interviews. But the problem was that data science job got filled by someone that already was a data scientist. But they did have another role within the department that I'm at is risk. And that was someone to like work on different projects, one-off projects. And I accepted that role. And that's what I am doing right now. And the best part is like stuff I learned for YouTube videos, I can apply with real world applications. Like I taught myself Streamlit for YouTube. And then I built out some Streamlit apps for the company. I'm learning a little bit about AWS on the side. Now I'm going to move Streamlit apps to AWS. I'm learning deep learning right now. I'm going to look at how we can apply deep learning to our risk department. So I think it's perfect blend because now whatever I teach on YouTube or I learn on the job, I can cross like vice versa. So I know I didn't answer your question fully. I'll answer it in a second, but let me just read your other comments. So I'm building my portfolio on GitHub and feeling more confident to apply for jobs / freelancing. However, the real world data does not have good quality with comparison to my practice one. Yeah. So both companies that I've worked for, so I've only worked for 2 companies. They don't have great data. That's just something that you're going to experience when you go into the real world. There's always going to be issues out there on the data side of things, and you're just going to have to adapt. So like I've covered at least like in some of data analytics projects or data science projects on how you can fix missing data, but it gets way more complex. Like let's say, for example, you have customers in a database, but you have no information about the customer. Like again, very elementary level right there, but that is something that's very common. Other data issues that you might have is like your date column. Sometimes the dates will be in 3 or 4 formats. And that's something that I had to deal with. And you learn on the job, like how to fix that type of stuff and use like a lot of Stack Overflow. You research it on Stack Overflow, see if anyone knows how to fix this. If not, you're tweaking at it. And sometimes it takes a few hours to try to figure out what you're going to do with those data gaps. And some of them you're not going to be able to fix. That really relies on the data engineering team to fix that. If you have an opportunity to work on that or work with the data engineers, it's awesome. Sometimes companies are segmented. Like I'm the only person in data within my division. Like data engineering is their own separate entity. But again, just kind of depends. I wish you like football, soccer as much as baseball because there's a lot of data work with that. You know, the funny thing is I actually have a book on it. I haven't read it. I don't know if it's over here though. Oh man, is it over here? No, it's not. Oh, it must be downstairs. Yeah, so I have a data analytics book on soccer and football, and I eventually wanted to read it and like make a video about it. I haven't had the time, but I also have books downstairs, and it's in that book side of things. I can't remember what it was. I bought off Amazon though. I would like to see an end-to-end tutorial on data pipelines and Streamlit projects. Yeah, I mean, I have one Streamlit project here on the channel right now. I do plan on making more of them within the future. The Streamlit project was interesting because we take in, I believe it was a CSV, and then we make a lot of different outputs on it. And it was like a 2-hour video, 2-3 hour video. And like I said, it helped a ton with what I was working on at work. So, all right, back to your question on here, right? So you're saying, if I had to start over again, how would you approach the data journey knowing your current experience? So I think networking is more important than your portfolio, as crazy as it sounds, just from the networking aspect. And there's a lot of different ways that you could network, right? Like some people will tell you network on LinkedIn. Some people will say network in-person events, or even like YouTube, like building out YouTube videos like this, or like all this stuff I'm building out is technically networking, right? Because people are going to watch the videos, and eventually like you might have hiring managers watch a video. You might have like a data lead or someone within a company that's watching a video as a tutorial. Maybe they're sending it off to a junior, or they don't understand a certain concept will watch the video to gain a little bit more clarity. So you have to look at it from a perspective of like, how can I get my name out there to more people? Because the opportunity, like if you keep telling people what you're doing, like, oh, I'm studying data science, or I'm trying to get into data science, or I'm studying X, right? And you keep showing that you're attempting to improve your skill set week after week after week, eventually someone notices, and eventually like an opportunity gets posted, and whether someone reaches out or you reach out to someone, you can bridge that connection. And again, highly suggest networking number one. Like networking is the most important thing within to get a data job. I'd say like number two would be probably like your portfolio or your skills. Like you have to obviously interview well too and practice interviewing. I don't like the coding interview questions personally, because I don't think that's the best way to judge someone's skill, on a live call. Hey, can you code this out? Oh, like you have so many other resources available to you now, whether like, I mean, in the old days, like you can still look up Stack Overflow from years ago, but in general, like you can even throw a code into Chat GPT and it auto fixes some of your code. Chat GPT isn't perfect, but you have that opportunity to do that. So I think that side is changing. I think that's a little bit antiquated, but in general, like networking. Let's see over here. But yeah, Ethan, or well, I know we have 3 people in here now. Like I said, put other questions or anything that you want to talk about on this side of things. So let me just drink a little bit of water real quick and move forward, kind of like what I'm focusing on right now and moving into next year. So I did start learning Python this year, and that's where I started building out a lot of these pandas videos or tutorials, like going over those interview type questions with pandas. And I think that's a good like fundamental, just to learn a little bit about Python, get my feet wet. Recently, last few weeks, I've really spent a lot of time on learning Python classes. And the reason why I spend a lot of time on Python classes is I do want to get into deep learning. And I started teaching myself PyTorch. I was watching some YouTube videos and going through some courses. There's actually a really good one out there. It's like 25 hours of PyTorch tutorials in one on one YouTube video, and phenomenal. But the lecturer started going over Python classes, and that was something I'm not familiar with, right? I did very basic object-oriented programming within college, but with what I've been focusing on, at least on the data side of things, when you're running models or pandas, I had really no need for object-oriented programming or classes. So I had to teach myself that skill set. And we have a Python classes video coming out next week, I believe. And it's going to be about 2.5 hours worth of content. And I studied a lot for that video, like probably a few hours every single day, compiled it, and that should be out over there. Once the Python classes video is out, we're going to be focusing on more of the deep learning side things. So I really want to focus on PyTorch, probably make a series off of it. So I think like the first video would essentially be, terms of just basics of PyTorch, and then just slowly build on to that skill set. But after we go to PyTorch, I don't know what direction. There is some data engineering side of things that I do want to learn, at least like the very basic fundamentals. Like I definitely want to upskill at least on like AWS, because that is part of the tech stack which I have to deploy Streamlit over to. So I think it would be beneficial to learn AWS, maybe make some videos specifically on it, and then we'll see how that goes from there. Hold on, my phone just went off. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with 2024. I think what I'm also going to continue to do is build out one project every single month, one or two. I've been doing one project essentially since I started this YouTube channel, and I think that's a pretty good flow, because these project videos, they take a lot of time to make. It's not like I can just whip up code and build out a project. Like there's a lot that are going to be involved with those specific project videos, and that's why they're 2 hours plus, right? Some of the other videos that I make that are 10 or 15 minutes, they take definitely a few hours to make at least, and that is a good chunk of time, but the project videos take a while, so that's why we'll be doing 1 month. Hey, ABC, I appreciate you hanging out over here. Hey, Shanice, how are you doing? So, guys, feel free to put whatever questions you have here in the chat. And if you want to watch a replay later on, so like the first 15 to 20 minutes, talked a little bit about my data journey and a little bit behind the YouTube channel and kind of like where I want to move the YouTube channel towards in the future and where I'm trying to go. So kind of like a TLDR on that side of things is I'm essentially trying to learn stuff here on the YouTube channel to apply in my real life job, which I work in a fintech. I kind of work on my own specific projects, but things that can kind of improve looking at risk and fraud within accounts. So a lot of applications on the machine learning side of things, a lot of applications on the data side of things. And that's where I try to learn here, apply it over there. And it's been working fantastic and really love it. What was the top project you did in your career that helped you to get a job or recognition? Oh man. So I think like all the mini projects that I've been able to work on along the way did help with recognition. I'll say like the job that I got kind of I wouldn't say a bonus, but like a good salary bump for my first job. And I think I ended up going from like, I was making like 63,000 and I think they bumped me up to 75 after my first review. And again, this was my first job, not the job I have right now, is like building out standardized pricing across the business. So we were a tax software company, but our prices were all over the place. And we made our money in a few different sections on it. It wasn't just selling software. There's something else called like a bank product. And essentially what and sorry if I'm getting a little too technical over here, but a bank product essentially, and boiled down to very basic terms, is someone will file a tax return, but they want to have their refund from that tax return now instead of in the future. So a tax preparer will charge someone if they want to have that specific bank product. And as the tax software company, we would take a cut of that. And there's other fees as well. Like we had like 10 different types of fees that were associated with tax returns on top of our software. So essentially what I had to do is look at all of our fees, look at our specific customers, which we had different groups of customers. We had like, I'd call them partner customers, just a very basic term, and they're not technically called partners, but they would have a bunch of tax analysts or tax preparers underneath them. And then you would have like directs that are just one by one, like a small tax office. And a lot of our customers would be like the tax offices that you'd see at like a Walmart or like Amscot style, right? But regardless on that side of things, I had to come and build a pricing model because what had happened is our sales team decided at that time to give certain customers free software, other ones no free software. And that's an issue because some of our bigger customers were paying almost full price, but small customers, right, were getting stuff for free. And if you look at it from like the data perspective, like that's a lot of money that is going to be left on the table from that. So the first thing I had to do is take a look at all of our data, see how we were specifically making money because we didn't know. At the end of the day, we just knew we had X amount of dollars. Like bank products were good because we made a lot of money from that. But we didn't really know like how much money we made from software, how much we made from each of these different fees. So I had to take a look at it, like first try to optimize fees because some of our fees didn't make sense. People could, our tax preparers could put like the tax returns in different categories and pay less fees just based off. And there's a lot of logic behind it, but it didn't make sense. The numbers did not. So standardize that and fix that issue. Next, I had to take a look at discounts. Like our sales team wanted to give out discounts still, which I don't blame them. They try to get a sale, but at the same time, it didn't make sense. Like their criteria to give out discounts was like, oh, I feel good today, 50% discount, or oh, I don't like this customer today, 20% discount. So try to really standardize like what criteria a customer had to get for a discount. And then also like pricing our software since we didn't really have distinct software prices. So different prices for the partners and also internally. So that project took a few months. I worked very closely with our executive leadership team at that point, both from like our COO at that point, as well as like accounting, legal, and again, took months. We're able to build out a final software pricing as well as all of our different fees and got that published. And we did pretty well with that side of things once that got pushed forward. Obviously, some customers will always complain about fees. In fact, I complain about fees if I have to pay more in fees. I think all of us do. But from the business side of things, it was a crazy project. which again, going back also to bad data, there's a lot of bad data in the database and also Salesforce, which was discovered along the way. But yeah, that was my first major project, and everyone actually liked it at the end of the day, and it was a success. So that's something that I brought up also on my interviews, talked about that project. I also looked at data like with subpoenas and different things like that, try to see if there's any specific trends. IRS will sometimes send in subpoenas to a tax software company because people could be doing crooked stuff. So I had to see if I could find specific trends specifically within that company, look in our database, pull that data out, and see if I notice anything and work with our legal counsel on that. I'm not going to go too much in detail on that side of things. Again, I don't want to, but just letting you know that's something that I worked on a lot. So that kind of was like 2 projects, and those subpoenas I do all the time, but just in general. Hey, Nikita, wish you all the best channel. Talk about switching from DA to DS. I've already decided the specialization, AI, ML, and so on. So honestly, I haven't specialized yet. And it sounds weird, but like right now, what I'm doing is taking a look at what's going on like internally at my company right now within the risk division. And I'm seeing like what type of data science projects that I can apply over there to help improve that division or like help workflows. So like one of the things that I worked on and why I made a Streamlit project based around it is like automations within spreadsheet calculations. So a lot of our data, I wouldn't say a lot of our data, but some of our processes were very spreadsheet driven. But as someone that's moving from DA to DS, I know I can automate a lot of things with spreadsheets, right? If you think about a spreadsheet, essentially it's a data frame and ton of pandas content out there, just being able to manipulate spreadsheets. And then I'm like, well, we can turn this into an app. We have Streamlit as an opportunity. So learn Streamlit, learn how you can automate these spreadsheets or calculations and put one and one together. So a spreadsheet, let's say for like, you have different analysts that specifically review merchants. So like, imagine you can automate a process for an analyst that takes, let's say an hour, and you turn it into something that takes 10 seconds where you upload the data and it outputs specifically what you're looking for. So like, I took a look at that as a specific project. Next year, I'm going to be taking a look at LLMs as a project. And there's a lot of different applications that we could use for LLMs. First off, from like SOP standpoints, like when you're working in a fintech, there's a ton of abbreviations. There's a ton of different things you have to know between merchants, processors, partners, a ton. Like I'm learning stuff every day. But that's a perfect use case to build out an LLM based off of SOP. Throw in all the different SOPs within there. Throw in also like some of the language based around things, abbreviations, whatever we need to know. Like if someone has a question, it belongs in an SOP or something that we can eventually turn into an LLM or a chatbot. So my goal is to build out a chatbot for the 2 departments I work for, both risk and also underwriting. And I can turn that essentially into a YouTube video also, right? I'll just grab an SOP online and then build that out into an LLM. And that's something I can work on. Other side of things, right? Like I want to learn a little bit more deep learning. There's a lot of signals out there that could turn into fraud between a merchant. So essentially building out a model on that. And that's why I want to start learning PyTorch. Like I'm not focusing on one specific area. What I'm looking for is like, what project can I supply to the company to either like improve a process, whether like the process is like less fraud within like the risk division or like saving time. Like how can I save time? I'll try to see what I can do. I'll learn on the side and then implement it over there. And that's why I'm not really specializing in anything right now, but I'm publishing like what I learn across the way. Along the way. There's so much that you can learn within the data science scope. It feels endless. So I think the best way to start is seeing like what type of project can you apply to your company? If you're a data analyst or a junior data scientist, like what type of project can you apply to your company that you could see like improvement within your company's processes and learn the skills that are needed for that, build the app and show off the app to your seniors. And like I said, that's what I've been doing. And it's been a lot of fun with that. Really appreciate your hard work on YouTube. Sometimes your face gets in the way of the code. The line is long, but it's not a big issue. Besides that, your videos are clear as water. Well, I do appreciate that. And yeah, I actually have an editor that helps me out with this type of stuff. So I'll talk to him on that. But I do like putting at least the face on over there. So like I said, I do appreciate on that. Rhythm says, what is the difference between fit and fit transform? I actually made that mistake in what I think it was your comment or someone else comment on that. I got to rewatch that data professor video where he's talking about both fit and also fit transform on that side of things. So I'll rewatch it and I'll make a video talking about like my mistake over there. So I think that is at least needed. I did leave a comment though with there. But yeah, guys, keep asking questions along the way. And I guess I should also talk a little bit about, I know it's not really focused on the data science side of things or data analytics side of things, but kind of like my hobbies that I do as well, beyond YouTube, because I have the other YouTube channel for sports cards and then also this YouTube channel too, which it's tough balancing those. So my hobbies, my number one hobby outside of sports cards is running. So I did a full data analytics video, I think, on the running, or it was pandas. I can't remember. It was a while ago on running and ultra marathons. Like, I find there's a lot of parallels between running and then also ultras as like, there's a lot of parallels between data science and then like either running or ultra marathons. As weird as it sounds, here's why. Like with running, you have races that go all the way from like a couple hundred meters all the way to a couple hundred miles. And there's different ways that you can train for those specific races. But like when you get to those 100-mile or 200-mile races, it's not something that you can learn overnight, just like data science. Like you're not going to learn everything overnight. And with these like 100-mile races, there's so many different types of 100-mile races out there. I'll give you an example. There's one that you start in the bottom of Death Valley, you climb up 2 mountains in the middle of summer. It's 130 degrees. So you're looking at 135 total miles. You're going through 5 different climates. Super, super tough race. And like you have to run 3 100s and also apply to get into this race. And most people get rejected to even run this specific race, not even talking about completing it. Like very, very tough race. But then you also have 100-milers that are just running through a city. Like recently there's a 100-miler in Tampa, the Tampa 100, first year that they did it. There's a lot of turns and you have to navigate. You're on your own. But like that's a much easier course. It's November in Florida. It's cold. Like with data science too, like you have some very elementary basic stuff like running your first ever linear regression, but then it continues to get a lot more difficult as you learn more skills and you can get more nuance taking a look at the specific data. Both things that, you know, kind of encourage you to keep on improving your skill set, whether you're running, like you're trying to either get a better time or run farther or try a more challenging race, but also on the data science side of things, you could say the same exact thing. So a lot of parallels between the two, but from like the physical fitness side of things, I see that. And then like, I also have like kind of a creative side. So I do play the guitar and I just find it a lot of fun too, because there's always like new stuff you can learn on the guitar, test your creativity, whatever. Like could talk about that for a while. Probably bores a lot of people. So I'm not going to continue with that. But either way, like those are my hobbies. And that's kind of how I fit it in with data science. All right. Would love to know about all the books that helped you in your journey and books about football. Let me look where that football is. I can literally look on my Amazon account right now. And then let me just double check real quick. What is it called? I'm trying to see it right now. I have to search soccer data analytics. Can't find it. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it over here. You know, I can't find it. I'll cover it another day once I find it. It's literally downstairs in my garage because I have a bunch of books down over there. So I do apologize that I can't find it. I wish I had up there. At one point, I either had it up there or down below, and I removed it because I took a huge stack of books downstairs. So unfortunately, that is not there. But books that helped you across your journey. So I think the biggest book, and I'm sure other people have mentioned it before, Atomic Habits. And the reason is like both with data science and also like just general life, habits do compound on top of each other. And it's like really important to build out a routine. And like for myself, I've gone through periods of my life where like I didn't have good habits and there's consequences behind that. So like in high school, I was 260 pounds. I ate really bad. I drank soda. I didn't exercise. And that's just like really bad habits at that point. And you can really like have your life spiral out of the way. Also, like a bad habit is not studying. Like if you don't continue to study, your skills are going to depreciate over time or you're going to plateau. But if you're going to continue to study a skill set, like let's say for data science, and you keep like building up, like you look back in 3 or 6 months or even a year, you'd be like, wow, I've learned so much along the way. Whereas like if you don't, you're going to plateau. Like when I was the first as a data analyst, right, I felt I plateaued because I couldn't really apply new skill sets at my first job. And also like I was doing the same thing every day, but I wasn't like beyond after getting used to like complex SQL queries, because there's always going to be complex SQL queries, a couple hundred lines when you're dealing with complex data. But beyond that, right, like I wasn't teaching myself anything new. I wasn't learning anything on the data engineering side or data science side. So, I let myself plateau. And that's also kind of one of the reasons why I built this YouTube channel. So I could always learn something new. I could apply it to a business and improve myself. So out of any book, like if you would have to read one book your entire life, Atomic Habits, because it'll help you both like physical side of things and also mental side of things. I've read the book like 2 or 3 times. I couldn't recommend it enough. Like super, super important. One other thing that I would like really recommend, and it might be over here. It is not. Well, actually, I know where it's at. It's in my backpack when I travel. But deep work, and then I do have this over here. So good they can't ignore you. So the so good they can't ignore you, like again, applies to what you work on within your business and also like on the YouTube side of things. Like build as much value as you can. Like I do that. I hope at least the perception is I do that at my full-time job, create value, see opportunities and build apps or, run data where we need it. But also on the YouTube side of things, like I'm going to continue to upload at least one video every single week. I'm going to build out one project every single month, and I'm going to learn and show you guys everything I know along the way. Look, I'm not the best data scientist, and I'm never going to say I'm the best data scientist. I'm probably not even the best data analytics person out there. But guess what? I'm going to study every single week. I'm going to show you guys what I learned. I'll make mistakes along the way. I mean, you guys have seen all the coding mistakes I make in the videos. I'm far from not perfect, right? Like I will make mistakes, but I'll correct those mistakes where I can, or I'll leave a comment and I'll just continue to try to improve. And I think that's the thing. Like, don't strive for perfection. If you strive to be like 90 or 95%, you can continue to improve over time. And also deep work. Like one of the things that I've started doing, and I've seen a lot of benefits from it, is like after I finish my morning run, I just turn off my phone until noon. Because what I find is I'll get distracted. Like sometimes I'll look at my YouTube metrics, or sometimes someone will text me, or whatever the case may be, right? Like we do live in a busy world, as the book mentions. And all those minor distractions can help, like not help, but they stop you from achieving what you want to do. So I find Deep Work is a very great book if you can apply that to your life. And again, I know it's not perfect because some people do have to go into the office and you're all going to have full like distractions there. Personally, I do not like working in an office. I used to have to blast music in my headphones just to completely ignore stuff. But again, a really, really great book. I highly recommend it. Kara's CNN tutorial would be useful. Yeah, I think those are going to eventually happen. What I have to do, so it's again far from perfect, but I have a content calendar essentially that I built within a Notion notebook. So what I try to do on this Notion book is every time I have an idea, I'll just jot it down, and then I can always go back. Like as funny as it is, I have so many SQL video ideas, but like right now, I have like zero desire to make SQL videos minus like a project. And I am working on a project a little bit later today that does involve SQL and also building out a database. I don't know for sure if it's going to be a YouTube video yet, or it's still very early stages. And there's an application with sports cards, which if you're brand new to the stream, I talked about it a little bit earlier. One of my favorite hobbies. This right? I have a full other YouTube channel based around sports cards, but regardless, it might be applicable to both that channel and also this channel. So still very early stages on building that out. But either way, like build out that Notion template, essentially all those video ideas, and I pick out a few of them to work on each month. And the ones I pick out, I see if it applies to what I do in my full-time job. Great, I can learn that skill set and work on it. But until like I'm very comfortable or don't have anything else to learn, I don't think I'm going to really focus on like one-off SQL videos for at least quite a while. I'm going to just drink a little bit of water real quick. All right, BY, I'm looking to transition into data science. Your videos help me so much. I already have a career in VFX, but I was curious if you have any suggestions how I could do that. Are you talking about like visual FX? So like editing videos, like transformation, stuff like that type of side for VFX? Or are you trying to get straight into data science? Like, do you have a little bit of data analytics background? I know you have another comment down below. I'll take a look at it in a second, but I don't recommend someone just jump straight into data science. I think that's too difficult to do. I would recommend that you get a data analytics job first. And I know data analytics applications are flooded, but it goes back to my first point of networking side of things. Like focus on networking first, and then eventually you will get a job. Like network, get your name out there as much as possible through as many mediums as possible. Like I have a YouTube channel for data. I have a YouTube channel for sports cards. I tell people all the time in sports cards, I'm in data. I try to get my name out there. Tell people over here, like on the Ryan Noah Data channel, like I'm trying to transition from data analytics to data science. I'm going to just show you everything that I am doing along the way to try to transition over there. And guess what? In a year, 2, 3 years, like when I'm comfortable enough to call myself a data scientist, because right now I'm not, like, sure, I know how to run models. I know a decent amount. I would say decent amount of Python, but I know enough Python to get by. I just finished this whole classes tutorial. Like I'm not comfortable enough saying that I'm a data scientist right now, but I know how to apply at least some data science philosophies into what I do at my full-time job. So I hope like these videos continue to inspire people to transition from data analytics to data science, or, you know, when eventually someone wants to jump into data science, show like DA first, a few years there, move into data science. I finished up the IBM data science certificate and I'm pretty active in Kaggle. I've been working on my portfolio. Oh, okay. Then you're way farther ahead than I thought. That's good to have a Kaggle portfolio. I've talked to 1 or 2 owners that own data science companies, and they definitely look on the Kaggle side of things as like a bonus. It shows like you're going above and beyond. And I'm saying like outside the beginner competition. So like I've done some Kaggle videos on the channel with Titanic and house prices. I'm going to do the other one with like digit recognition in the future. That one I believe you can use PyTorch with, but again, that'll be a 2024 video. I shouldn't even really talk about too much right now, but I'm talking about like the competitions outside of those, the ones that are like 60 days or 90 days or a few months. And like if you place in those type of competitions, that looks golden. And also that's another thing that you can bring up in your interviews. Like when you're interviewing, you want to stand out because a company's going to interview a lot of people. They're not just going to interview one person and hand that one person a job. Like, unless you know the CEO, that's not going to happen. So you always want to stand out in some capacity. How do you stand out across the 100 plus people that are applying for that data science job? How do you become, and there's a marketing book behind it, like I think it's what, Purple Cow. How do you become that purple cow within that interview process? You have to look at it from that perspective. How do you stand out? And, you know, placing in Kaggle competitions, that is one way you stand out because not everyone applying for those jobs has fully used the Kaggle competitions outside the beginner tutorials and beginner data science projects. So if you already have that, you're looking pretty good. Ryan, what are some of the aspects of the most effective and least effective study for data analytics? Study online courses, trying to do projects, consume video content. How would you rank it? So like when I wanted to get my first data analytics job, I studied a lot of SQL, and I know his channel is blown up right now. But some of the first videos I watched, just because they were recommended, were Alex the Analyst. I mean, they were like 5 to 10 minutes, super quick and to the point. But I watched those. I understood how that worked. And then I think what I did is I started looking up like SQL interview questions, both articles and also there's a lot of platforms out online. I almost said outside, but online now that you can actually like practice real SQL questions. And I studied a lot of those. Also, there was a few courses that I watched on YouTube as well, but I got comfortable enough where like I knew how to do beginner and also intermediate SQL questions. Maybe I couldn't answer the hard ones, but I was able to do that. And just as a reference too, because I did have a little bit of insight on like interviews and everything like that. So like towards the end where I was at this company, they wanted to hire a second SQL data analyst. And they would talk about like what would go on in some of these interviews. People that got into the interview stages didn't even know the difference between like a left join or an inner join. And it's like, man, you got the opportunity, you got your resume selected, but you don't know the difference between the two joins. Like, make sure you have everything written down. Like, what I would personally recommend too, and it depends how your interview. Like, are you going to have a phone interview? Are you going to have an interview in person? Are you going to have like a video interview? Like someone's on the other side here, we're talking back and forth. I don't know, but either way, what I'd recommend is like the full week going up to your interview is like you just read all these articles on like interview questions or practice like coding interviews just in case you do have a coding interview, and literally write down all the different questions that someone may ask and have the answers to those and practice, 10 or 20 questions, maybe a few every single day, just to build up to your interview. I think that's going to be your best approach for getting your like on the interview side of things for your data analytics job. But like, you would be surprised how many people don't make that extra effort. Like I see a lot of people online that talk about applying for data analytics jobs, but I don't know how many of them are actually like building out portfolios or how many of them are networking or like actively preparing for these interviews. And like, obviously I might be biased because I'm in this industry now and at least hear a little bit of what goes on with some interviews, but I just don't think that's fully happening. And again, like I said, could be completely wrong. And I haven't conducted my own data analyst interviews to hire other people. I have not done that at all. So don't have that responsibility. Don't have that experience. I know a few other people that do YouTube channels do have that experience. So I can't fully talk about it, but at least from my perspective, what I have heard. Would love to see more links on your profile where I can reach you out for questions. Example, email, Instagram, Facebook. That is all you're comfortable with it. So I use Twitter for data. I have like right now, and it might change in the future, but I have no plans at all for Instagram. And like, again, it might change in the future. For me, like Instagram, you can spend hours just scrolling through, seeing photos and stuff like that. And yes, I have one for my sports card YouTube channel, but like, I don't really use it. I essentially schedule posts and I'll respond to a few different DMs over there. The problem sometimes is like, this is why I'm also doing these live streams so we can communicate back and forth, is you get a lot of messages with people asking stuff. Like, I'll just give you an example. Like on my sports card channel, I wrote a book. Like this is my book right here, Spotting Fakes. So I taught people like how to spot counterfeits with sports cards. And there's other books out there, but like with writing a book, you get flooded with messages all the time. And it's tough to respond to every single message. And like that channel is a little bit larger, but there's only so much time in the day. Like there's time that needs to be used for running. There's time that needs to be used for the full-time job. There's time that needs to be used for studying. There's also time you need to have for yourself. Like I live with my girlfriend. We also have a dog. Like there's such limited time at the end of the day, and I don't want to spend it on Instagram. Now, Facebook, I might make a Facebook group in the future, but again, Facebook's like very time consuming. So if you have anything, message me on Twitter. I will do make a few different tweets every single week, and I do a really bad job with scheduling those. I do have a scheduler, and I have a lot of things in like kind of like in a pipeline where I want to make tweets on them and reiterate on that side of things, but it's kind of like down in priorities. But yeah, feel free to message me on Twitter. Facebook is a maybe. Instagram is a no for now. Kaggle portfolio or a GitHub portfolio? I think on the data, like if you're going for data science, I think Kaggle portfolio right now is just as important as GitHub, but I don't know. Like if I was going to hire someone, I'd rather have a Kaggle portfolio, but there's also so much that you could use on the GitHub side of things that isn't applicable to Kaggle, because like on the Kaggle side of things, you can see how effective someone is like with these different projects. But on the GitHub side of things, you can see things like Streamlit projects where you can't really present those. So I think both are important. And like you should have a few different projects on your Kaggle portfolio and a few projects on your GitHub portfolio. put all your eggs in one basket unless like you're consistently ranking in Kaggle. I mean, if you're doing it that, like you should be able to get a data science job, or at least that's my assumption on that side of things. Again, I have not hired any data scientists, and I'm not even a data scientist myself yet. I still have a lot to study, and I'm, like I said, far from perfect. I know we have 6 people in here, and I can't believe we're already 50 minutes through this live stream. So again, just open Q&A. Feel free to shoot messages in here. We'll talk about whatever you want. And I think we're going to do one of these every single month. So only reason why we're doing 11 a.m. today is we have a holiday here in the States. So I was off from work. So in the future, these will be on one of the weekends. So figure out some planning on that side of things. Maybe after we finish like a huge data science project, like the one I did recently, we'll make a live stream like this, and people just can hang out and we can talk on that side of things. But yeah. Yeah, feel free, like I said, put stuff in the chat. Otherwise, it has been a pretty good session so far, I think. Like I said, time has flown by. I can't believe it's been over 50 minutes talking about this. And classes video will be out next week, 2.5 hours. And then we get straight into PyTorch. So I'm excited about that. I'm a few hours into that 24-hour course. I think I'm in like hour 5 or 6. I already have a lot of notes on that, and I'll definitely be studying on there. If you had to start writing a book today, what would be the subject? Well, I can tell you from like how much time it takes to write a book. So like the book that I wrote for sports cards is 150 pages, I think. Like, let me just double check. It was, oh no, it's actually close to 200. Hold on. Let's see right now. 188 pages. So I was in between on that side of things, right? This took so much time, man. Like I spent an hour or 2 a day just like building out all the content on here. And then between publishing it, between marketing it, like it's such a pain. I have zero plans to write a book again, at least for the longest amount of time. Maybe one day if this YouTube channel just like blows up, I'll write a book, but zero plans on that side of things. And honestly, like, I know it sounds bad because like I do make a lot of YouTube videos, but I just don't feel comfortable enough right now to have a book written because there's so much more that I can learn on the data science side of things. And like, I feel like to write a technical book, like with data, you really have to be like top 5% on that side of things in a skill set. And I don't think like on the data side of things, I'm top 5 or top 1% on anything like that yet. And the only reason why is like, just to get so nuanced and detailed to learn something and then write 200 pages on it, it takes a lot of time, a lot of studying. And right now, I'd rather focus on being in the top 10, top 20% and making these YouTube videos. And that's where I see my drive being like, I'm motivated to make a YouTube video every single week. If I was going to go and write a data science book, I would have zero motivation. And that's just the honest truth. Like, and sports cards, and like, that's one of my favorite hobbies. There's a lot of books I could write about because like I have that subject expertise where people ask me questions about all the time, just beyond like counterfeits and stuff like that. There's other niches, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but zero desire because it just takes so much time to write these books and then go and check all the grammar, make sure all the facts are correct. Then you have to publish it, market it. And like, truth be told, like with that book, it sells on Amazon for $20, but I collect $3 from it. Like it's not worth the time at the end of the day. I'd rather just make more YouTube videos and upskill from that side of things. Where should we practice Panda or SQL interview questions other than StrataScratch? I was going to say that website. So like SQL also, I think Data Lemur is one site. I actually have a lot of YouTube videos on Data Lemur here on the channel, just going through those SQL questions. And around that time period was when I was transitioning from data analytics to data science. So that was like the very beginning of this YouTube channel. I think it's 6-7 months ago that I uploaded my first video. Somewhere around there. Time flies. Either way, like I'd recommend checking those out. And also for like this, I know Alex Analyst is uploading his new website, which is SQL based. So I'd check that out. But I use StrataScratch for the pandas, and I have a video on beginner. I don't know if I ever made the intermediate one. I was solving all the intermediate questions and moving into the hard questions. I don't even know if I finished that intermediate one. I did all the intermediate questions with pandas, but I don't think I ever recorded it. Best platform for beginner data analytics portfolio. I mean, I think that's just self-explanatory on the GitHub side of things, or you could even have your own website. Like eventually I do want to have my own specific website, which I have my domain already, Ryan Nolan Data, but I haven't really published anything to it. And yeah, I know how to build websites. I did SEO in college as well. I built websites with WordPress and different things like that. So I have that skill set. It just takes a lot of time. So I do think like it is a differentiator if you have your own website and then you can put that on there. And I did mention it a little bit earlier in this video, Purple Cow philosophy. I'm pretty sure it's called Purple Cow. You always want to stand out. I think having your own website with your own portfolio on there would stand out, but you can still post the same projects on your website as well as a GitHub. And from a recruitment standpoint, I don't know how much time they're going to spend looking at like GitHub, looking at your code and seeing what's going on with the specific project, or even like going on your own website and checking it out. I don't know how much time they'd spend on it. Maybe 5 minutes, if that, but I think it might make you stand out if you have your own specific website. So let's see what website would be like number one. And then you have your, not for data analytics, let's say GitHub, number two. In my country, Nigeria, there are no entry-level position. Talk more on your channel, how to land entry-level positions. Well, I've talked a little bit about it here on this channel, or at least on this live stream on how to land one. I highly recommend networking, like, and not just networking from like the face-to-face perspective, or even just like LinkedIn, like build out content, post on Twitter, post on YouTube, like everyone that views your tweets or everyone that views your YouTube videos, that's someone that you could possibly network with. And that's how I landed my latest job, is from my sports card YouTube channel. I post a lot of content over there. I also talk about how I'm in data. And luckily enough, I was able to network and get the job where I'm at right now. So networking is number one, because at the end of the day, if you do network, you just have that slight advantage over everyone else applying for these jobs. And I know there's a lot of people flooding applications on the data analytics side of things. Like sometimes I see on Twitter, and again, it could be biased, right? Maybe someone posted a screenshot or manipulated the image, but sometimes there's over 1,000 people applying for a job. That's crazy to me. I don't know how many people are just like watching a TikTok or something that says, become a data analyst in 5 seconds, and then applies to that job thinking that they're going to get it. I don't know. Right. But there's a lot of that content out there. Become a data analyst in 5 seconds, 30 minutes or 1 hour. Like I don't believe in that. And I do think that's why a lot of people are like flooding these applications. But also I think someone mentioned that anytime someone clicks a link on LinkedIn to go visit like a website, that also counts as an application. I'm not too sure. But on the side of things with like no entry level positions, I mean, I'm not from Nigeria. I've never been to Africa, so I can't speak for that. But I do feel like every company needs to have someone start at like the very level for the entry level. I don't know. That's at least my perspective. There's always going to be juniors or entry level out there. I could be 100% wrong, but at least here in the States, there are a lot of entry level side of things, and maybe not just apply specifically for, data analysts. Look for another term that might be similar. Like my first job was a quote unquote marketing data analyst. I didn't really do any of the marketing data, but that's how the company wanted to hire for that position. So there's other jobs out there that might be similar. Like in my company right now, we have stuff that are like risk analysts. And now risk analysts don't really focus on the SQL side of things, but you do take a look at data from different merchants. But that would be a good way to segment eventually into a data analyst position, right? Let's say, for example, you become a risk analyst at a fintech, and you take a look at potential fraud accounts, right? You could parlay from moving from risk analyst into a data analyst because you already have that analytics mindset. And maybe you're, like I said, maybe you're not doing a lot of SQL. Maybe you're not, building out reports, but at least you have on your resume, as stupid as it sounds, an analyst position, and then you can transition. So maybe look for something a step below as a data analyst, or something like a risk analyst or something like that. And I'm sure every industry has their own version of that. and then parlay into a data analytics position. And again, network. Show you know your skills, and also network. So important. And we'll have a few other last minute questions. And then I kind of wanted to end the stream around about an hour or so. It's been a lot of fun though. And we'll definitely be doing this more in the future. So any other last minute questions? If not, we'll end the stream. And if you've watched as far as a replay, I do appreciate it. And if you've hanged out this entire stream too, I also appreciate it, man. Like, spend some time, hang out, talking data. And we're just going to continue to grow this channel and show off new skills. As an entry-level DA, what tools would you recommend we master before the start date? And what would the entry-level position train us before the start date? All right, so like going into my first job, I knew how to run SQL queries. And now I focus on MS SQL itself. So at least I use Microsoft SQL Server, learn how to use that. There's a bunch of different tools that integrate with Microsoft SQL Server. I forget which one that we used at my old company. But it was more tabular reports than the graphing capabilities, whether than there's like a Tableau or Power BI. But I know from like applying to a lot of jobs, people always expected either like the no Tableau or Power BI. So I think it's super important that you put at least one of those. Also, I know Google Data Studio has recently rebranded. The name is escaping me right now, but I do use that at the job I have right now. Again, the name is escaping me. I'm so used to Google Data Studio because I used to use it for SEO side of things. And now it's more of a data analytics or data science tool with all the different graphs and charts. Hold on, I'm going to look up what that tool is, what's been rebranded to. It's now Looker. See, sometimes you freeze when you're making videos, but Looker is a free version. It's not the best, but I am seeing a lot more companies use Looker, and it's pretty easy. Yeah, you have it right here. Google Looker is the name. So Looker, you can also use SQL queries, or you could use just spreadsheets. And I think it's a good starting ground and something that you could just throw on your resume. Like, you could learn Looker probably in about 2-3 hours if you really wanted to. I mean, if you want to get like very minute details, like it would take a lot longer, but like to get comfortable with the application, 2 or 3 hours. But I would just recommend, like, for an entry-level data analytics position, SQL. Like, you need to ace the SQL interview. Like, when you're live coding, you need to say every step, like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. Like, format your code properly. Talk about like why you're doing that. Like, again, show that you are an expert on it and that they don't have to train you. I think a lot of companies now expect you to have that skill set before like you jump up into that position. They expect you to know, like, going into that job, they're not going to hold your hand and teach you SQL. Now, getting into that position, they're probably going to hold your hand and teach you the databases, because every company's database is completely different. And if you're going to have to grab data for reports for ELT or other departments, like, you have to know where that data lives. So they are going to hold your hand, showing you like, here's our database. This is the tables that we use. These are common fields that we use within the table. But I think going into that job, you should at least know in general how to graph and also how to code within SQL. You'll learn other minor skill sets along the way when you take on specific projects or they get assigned to you. But that's my take on it. Much love, Ryan, for doing this. Look forward to your future videos and hopefully see another live stream next month. Yeah, I do plan on doing one. Also, I'll be traveling for work soon for a few days. So maybe we'll make like a day in a life as a traveling, like, I don't know. I'm gonna either put like data analyst or data scientist. Not sure, but I still don't really call myself a data scientist yet because I have a lot more to learn, although I am taking on at least data science projects. But again, we're over an hour. So I appreciate you guys all hanging out. I know we have 5 over here, and in the future, hopefully we do scale this out. It'd be really cool to have hundreds of people talking about data all in once. Although the chat would be kind of tough. So hope you guys enjoy your weekend. If you're in the US, you do have a long 3-day weekend like myself, and have some fun with that. And I will catch you guys in my Python classes video, which will be out next week. I don't have a specific day yet, but be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a really awesome video. All right, see you guys.